What is that head chin dance thing? Oh, here we go. Facebook. Yes. Sweet. Going live. Okay, hey. So, it being February, we recently, in the US, we had Groundhog Day. And so today's Throwback Thursday is more about throwing back and throwing back and throwing back and throwing back. It's about iteration. This is something that every hardware startup is very familiar with. You go through so many different iterations of your product, and unlike software, where you can like tweak a little thing at a time and you can push immediately. Hardware involves a lot more of like, oh, once I make a tiny change in my circuit board, then I have to wait 3 weeks to get a new one, or I have to have a mill in order to make the new one and stuff. And it's a much larger pain than it is working with software. And I say this as someone who comes from hardware proclivities. That's like my field of expertise-ish. And yeah, even given that hardware is hard, you know? So it takes a lot of time. I've been iterating on projects recently, including the frustration of trying to get a Valentine's project out. In the end, he actually left it with me. Here's the Valentine that I made for my boyfriend, but I spent all of yesterday basically pounding my head on the desk being like, oh, I can't get anything to work. So first off, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make these awesome cards. What I'm gonna do is I have these sweet little, I got these at the Whitney Museum of Art in New York, and they're so cool, these little colorful things, and I was like, okay, I'll put the Circuit Scribe conductive ink pen into the AxiDraw, which is an XY plotter drawing robot from Evil Mad Scientist Labs. It's so cool! And I was like, yeah, it'll be great. We'll make little conductive cards, and then we'll like attach LEDs to them from circuit stickers, the Chibitronics people, and it'll be so cool, and people will love it, and I'll put videos up, and it'll be great. And that was like how my Valentine's Day was gonna go. You know, planning all the way from Tuesday afternoon all the way through yesterday, and even this morning I was still trying to get it to work. It would not work. So first I tried the Circuit Scribe pen, and it turns out that that does not want to work. It doesn't want to stick to this paper because the paper is too slick, so the gel pen format can't get any traction, and the ink just stays in the pen. Then I tried it with bare conductive ink, and at first the ink was kind of just gloppy, and my brush was too floppy. This is supposed to be like a little sort of leet heart, you know, with a greater than or less than symbol and a 3, and little leads coming down from there, and it just came out as this gushy, goopy mess. And it was not working. And I was gonna do it by hand, but then like when I thinned out the conductive ink, it sort of beaded up on the surface of the card and wouldn't stick. So in the end for that, I ended up just giving up on the robot drawing aspect of it completely, and I just went with this, well, let's keep that up for a second. Glorious failure. And I ended up just like doing it with some conductive tape, and which is cool too. Copper tape is neat, and like drawing on there with a marker. And I wanted, at that point I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something cool. I'll make it touch responsive. So I made a couple of modifications to the default Trinket M0 code from Adafruit. And so now, I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, when you touch the little card, you know, the LED comes on and you can do a little heartbeat kind of thing, and it's great. So that made me feel better, you know. The main thing is if you're having problems again and again and again in different formats, you gotta just push through it and keep trying new ideas. So on the one hand, we have this idea of like iterating on the design, right? But then you also have the idea of iterating on the idea itself. Like you've gotta have this flexibility to be able to, you know, change your ideas, not be too attached. There's this whole Buddhist thing, you know, attachment is the root of suffering, etc. And it's totally true when it comes to hardware. There are so many different cultural memes you can apply to this. Like, the one that we always come back to is perfect is the enemy of good. And I actually looked this up because I've heard a number of different, you know, people talk about this. And it turns out that it goes back to a super old school form in French and Italian, popularized by Voltaire. So this has been around for a while. It's not just startup speak, and it's totally true. But in an updated version, actually, my friend has said perfectionism is nihilism. And I think that's just a beautiful way of encapsulating it. So that's, perfection is nihilism. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too attached. Feel free to iterate. So in that spirit, here are some projects that I've iterated on. Like basically every project that I stick with throughout my life goes through a number of different life cycles. So there's like, originally my first collaborative project was a friend in Ann Arbor at the AHA Hackerspace, and we made this super clunky lucid dreaming mask. And here in 2017, I updated that for a talk that I gave. I'm still totally going to use this. It still needs some more iteration, obviously, because I started out with conductive thread, and then I found out that at the temperatures that I was using the soldering iron and that I like soldering at, it just sort of dissolves. And that was bad. Also, it wouldn't conduct the way that I wanted it to when I just sewed it on. So I switched to wires, and then there's all this like jankety, I like put some Kapton tape over the conductive thread so it wouldn't interfere with the circuitry here, and it's just a huge mess. So I'm gonna have to redo that one, but in the meantime I'm gonna publish it soon. This one, the creativity button that we've been sort of pushing this week, is an update to an old one called the Nautilus Mind Pendant, which helps you stay in the realm of hypnagogic thought, or hypnagogic, I'm not sure. But yeah, a lot of the projects that I make are updates on older ones that make it better and stronger. Even this quarantine sign that I made the other week, the quarantine is quite difficult to read, and also I want to put some little holes in it so I can put suction cups on it and actually attach it to the door, because right now it's still just sitting on my desk. All this stuff, we build this stuff as makers, and it can go out and have a life of its own, and it can also like just rot in your workshop, but either way, you can keep coming back to this stuff again and again. This is how we end up as pack rats. It's too real. But, we're in good company, because I think Thomas Edison, whatever your thoughts on his politics are, he said this thing about, creativity, or like prototypes are all about having a few ideas and a huge pile of junk, and that's totally true. That is very true. So, as it comes to being about iteration today, the project that I'm talking about now is the habit breaker. And that's because, again, in this sort of Groundhog Day fashion, I'm working really hard on this metaphor here. I kept coming back to this feeling of frustration, and it kept driving me back to this mobile game that I got kind of addicted to this week, and I got really mad about it. It's called Abyssrium. I hesitate to even show it to you because it's a really lame game mechanic. All you do is, I promise, all you do is tap on the screen so you can get points, and then you can buy fish, and they give you more points. And it's cool that you get to, like, it's pretty, and you get to see all the little fish swimming around and stuff, but all you do is tap the screen. And people have made different auto tappers for this, but I wanted to come up with something of my own. So, here's the process of iteration for breaking my habit of playing this game. At first I was like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a robot that plays the game for me, and that's gonna enable me to level up without obsessing about, oh, I have to check on the app to see if the timers have run out so I can go and do those actions again that like give me the extra points and stuff, because that's what they do, is they make it addictive in the same way that you can apply addictive habits to learning stuff. Like stuff gets compounded in your brain if you study vocabulary like a few times a day, and then you see the same words like a few times in the coming weeks, and then again, like it prompts you after like increasingly long spans of time. That's a great way to learn something, but it's also a great way to build a terrible habit, and that's exactly what these apps are built to do. So the way that I started out was, okay, I'll use a servo, and I'll attach a stylus to it, and of course you have to have the stylus grounded, because otherwise it doesn't work. Either that or you have to be touching it all the time. So what you can basically do is attach an alligator clip to it, and then run that to the ground pin of your controller. And you can totally do that, but it was not really working. I went through several controllers and also through a number of different, iterations of how to attach this to stuff. So for example, first I started building a little Lego tower that it was going to sit on, and then I was like, oh no, you know what? I can make it clamp to the phone if I put this on the arm of a selfie stick and then have it sort of come up off the phone, which is sitting on the ground. The clamp is down here, the handle comes up here, and you attach the servo so that it can just sort of like beep 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 beep, and hit the screen with the stylus that way. That didn't work. So it was too unstable basically. This part kind of worked, but I wasn't able to get enough pressure, and the rubber band attachment was too weak. If I had had the patience to 3D print something, we might have gone somewhere with that idea, but I did not. I kept poking around with other stuff that I had, so I was like, okay, but we could tap really fast if we use a DC motor, because I've got this this thing. Oh, do I have that in another window? Let's pull it up. Yeah, we do. Okay. This thing. I found this attachment for it, which is pretty neat, and I was like, oh man, I could get so many taps per minute with that thing. It goes insanely fast, depending on, and I was scheming all about, okay, so what can we do with this? We can make it, we can make it a piston. We could attach it to a solar panel so that A, it won't go too fast, and then B, also, it will, not take any extra energy away from the earth to play this terrible game. And then I was also like, okay, this will be, I could have it tapped directly on the screen, but then it's a little harsh with that plastic there. So I wrapped the little star shapes with duct tape to soften it, and then put conductive tape around that. And then I was devising this little sort of brush assembly that would sort of brush against the opposite side of the conductive tape so that it would stay grounded even while it was spinning. There are attachments and bearings and stuff that you can get for that, but I didn't want to. I just wanted to get this out of my head. I wanted to build something simple so that it would not be my problem anymore. Turns out you can make a pretty cool stylus with anti-electrostatic discharge film, which is what these little bags are made of. So I cut some of that out. I tried, threading that through the holes in the servo here, there, to see if that would work as a little grounding mechanism. But it turned out that even though it sort of works when you use your hand, let me see if I can. Yeah, I know I failed to log into Game Center. If I tappity tap, come on. You want to, there we go. Yeah, see? You can use that as a stylus. And I was like, oh, sweet, that's a great cheap way to do it. I need to stop pulling that game up. And I kept being like, I don't have to break the habit because I'm just going to build a machine to do it for me. And then everything's going to be great. And I'm going to have a cool story about the machine. But things did not work out like that. What else did we do? Oh yeah, I found a really cool piston assembly on Thingiverse. Let me show you this. Oh, it's so cool. Thingiverse, tapper, piston. Somebody had, oh yeah, here we go. Built this awesome little 3D printable piston that holds a stylus, and you attach a servo to it. I still don't think that servos are the best way to go with this. I think a DC motor is the way because it's fast. Oh wait, no, they did use a DC motor. Ah ha ha ha, cool. We're friends. It's all good. Anyway, yeah, so, this is what my week has been like. I swear I did actual work as well. But this was enough of a distraction that I kept being like, I gotta get rid of this thing so that I can focus better. And then it'll also contribute to work, right? Okay, so we went through all of those, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute. The stylus has to be connected to a ground pin in order for it to be recognized as a capacitive touch device. So what I can do is I can just use a relay that will make and break the connection to ground. and it'll just click, 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 click on and off, and it will barely even be mechanical. So most relays actually have a solenoid inside, and they physically connect and disconnect conductors to make and break a circuit, or open and close a circuit. And that was like, in my mind, that's like a stroke of genius, and I still want to try that. Like my friend mentioned that, you know, you could have a whole array of these, like sitting on the surface of the phone and just turn some on and off. And I was like, that's, yeah, you could, and so for all kinds of applications and stuff. And I was at Noisebridge this morning, looking to laser cut a new thing for the quarantine sign. Turns out someone was on the laser for like 4 hours, so I didn't get to do that, but you know, I did talk to someone who told me that there are these things called reed relays that are much quieter and take less power, and they can handle less current, but who cares? All we're doing is breaking a capacitive connection to ground. We don't need a lot of power. We don't need to support a lot of power. So that's, you know, where I would go with this next. But then, as I was sitting there being like, well, I can't use the laser, I might as well hang out for a bit, I had this box of stuff with me, and I remember an old project that I've wanted to do for a while, which is a sort of cross between the Green Lantern's ring and Iron Man's arc reactor. So, let's close that. Give me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, I've always wanted to build this ring that, so the way that the Green Lantern's powers work is that he charges his ring with willpower, and that's what enables him to create all kinds of cool stuff. You know, he can basically work magic by creating stuff with this ring, and there's this whole, like, you know, chant that they can do about how their willpower is what powers it and stuff, and I was like, what a cool thing you could totally have that would help you break and make habits. And then you would have that intrinsic power in yourself to create anything you want. And I still think that's such a super cool idea. So I made a basic version of that today, and that is what the Habit Breaker is. This is made with the Adafruit Circuit Playground Express, which is a neat little board that comes with 10 RGB LEDs, individually programmable, 2 user input buttons, a user input switch, a little buzzer, a microphone, a 3D accelerometer, gyro mag thing, transmitting and receiving infrared signals, which is really cool, and just like a temperature sensor and a light sensor and all this stuff that I don't even remember. It's insane. This thing is super cool. Plus you can program it in CircuitPython, which is like a mini version of Python for microcontrollers. Plus you can program it in JavaScript. Plus you can program it in Blockly. It's exhausting how cool this is. They need to stop, but they haven't. This is made by Adafruit. Anyway, it's super cool. And it's sort of like a microbit, but not. It's got a few extra cool things and a slightly different light display. So, I need to catch my breath for a minute. This basically does exactly that. It charges up LEDs based on you being able to control yourself. Because what I've realized, okay, it's way easier to change your habits if you're building something rather than resisting it. So I've tried to make like dietary changes and stuff in the past, and what I've noticed is that it's extra hard because with exercise or other positive habits, you just have to remember to do it once or twice a day, and you can easily loop that in with other activities so that it becomes almost automatic. With resisting something, you have to be on 100% of the time. You're always having that little, you know, itch to do the thing, like open up the app or whatever. And it's a constant drain on your willpower. It's much harder. And once you fall and do the habit, the bad habit, it becomes so discouraging and demoralizing that it's very hard to break, to feel good about it. And, you know, some of your motivation goes away. So what I like about this project is that it helps you build towards something. So in opposition to building little, you know, heaps of points on my screen, I'm gonna build little LEDs. And this has 10 LEDs on it, so I figured that I would do also at the same time an update of another project that I've done, which is a mindfulness application, little hardware application that checks in with you 100 times a day. Since this doesn't need to be that frequent, I've broken it down to 10 times a day that it checks in with you. And that's about every 1.6 hours. So, well, okay, so there's 10 LEDs here, right? I'm usually awake for about 16 hours a day. So I plug it in the morning, then check in every 1.6 hours, then I'll have 10 LEDs by the end of the day. And the way that it works is, so you plug it in, it does this little sparkly thing, and then this is a highly accelerated version, but it's going to light up, oh, it goes this way, right? An LED, a yellow LED to check in with you, and it's going to also play a power-up sound. And then if you push button A, if you successfully got through that block of time without doing the thing, or if you want to build a positive habit, yes, I did the thing. And then you get to see your progress. And then if you miss one, come on, we gotta coordinate this. There we go. Yeah, if you miss one, then you just don't push it. And you get to see that that pixel, the next time it comes around, does not light up. So yes, I did the thing, or yes, I did not do the thing. I successfully resisted. And now we see that there's a little dead pixel in that time. And you can also check in on it if you want by pushing the other button. So that persists throughout the day. It just counts forward. And I'll go through the code with you in just a second. Just, yeah, cute little check. Yeah, so that pixel is going to stay dead for the rest of the day. But you know what? That's not too bad. So this is, again, a hugely accelerated version. Normally you would only get prompted once per hour. And in this demo I've got the sound turned off because I was testing in a public hackerspace. But in the final version it's got this power-up sound here. There. And it's going to prompt you with that as well. So this is probably not the best way to do this, but who cares? It works. Oh yeah, there's also a little sparkly thing. If you decide that your day is over before you've reached 10, then you can push both buttons and get, you know, a satisfying little all 10 animation thing anyway. Oh. In that case, I need to stop it from going anymore. Anyway, so, you know, that's that thing. And the way that it works is when it starts, you have all your variables initialized to 0, you show a little sparkly thing and turn all the pixels off. Now, this temp variable is a little confusing. It looks like it means temperature, but it actually stands for temporary. That's because each time, each 1.6 hour block, and yes, 5629500 milliseconds is about 1.6 hours minus the amount of time that the rest of this loop takes. So you're going to pause for almost 1.6 hours, then you're going to play this little power up and turn the pixel to yellow, prompting you like, did you do the thing? Did you not do the thing? And then you have 2 minutes to respond because you might be busy doing stuff or whatever. And then after that, if you did push the button A, then you get this little blue LED and everyone's happy. And you set that, I've got a list of values, of 10 values, that's being built while we're looping through here. And ke is the Chinese unit of decimal time that I use as the basis of these hacks, like timer-based hacks, and so I use that as my variable here for which block of time we're on. Even though we're at tenths of days instead of hundreds, I still like it. Also, you'll notice that I'm using 9 minus the current pixel value because the pixels start counting from here, and that gives you a sort of anti-clockwise pattern, and what I wanted was for it to go around just like a clock. Yeah, so, yeah. If you did push the button, then you set the color to blue, otherwise leave it black. And then you do the whole display. So it loops through the whole list. I think it's on item 3 here because I'm not sure why it's doing that. Anyway, for item 3, from 0 to 9, it's doing a little, maybe it's because, I have it in several different places. I see. Okay, cool. So, yeah, then we have a little for loop that's basically start at 0 and go to 9 because the pixels are numbered from 0 to 9 instead of 1 to 10. It's 0 indexed. So if the nice thing about using 1 and 0 as these values is that it means they are equivalent to true or false. So it can use them as in if statements as a value of a Boolean truth value. So if list, which is the oh yeah. So item 3 in the list. Each time you go through the loop, the position that you're at is called up as item 3. And the list of all of these values is called list. And so if that value of the current item is true, then you set that pixel to blue, otherwise leave it black. And that's what allows you to call these values back up and store them for the rest of the day. I'm going to show you the JavaScript version as well, because if you're more familiar with code, that may make more sense. Then you pause for 10 seconds to show the cute little display of where you're at. Then turn them all black again, turn everything off. And then you increment the k variable, which is your block of time, and also your pixel. Then you show the little sparkle animation and turn it off. And then over here, I've got these button interactions. So if you hit button A, then you give that display we just went through, showing where you're at. If you hit button B, if you hit button B, then that's your thing that basically says, I succeeded, give me points. And then if you hit both of them, you get to see the whole thing lit up in case you go to bed early and you want to get like a full arc reactor in. Because, you shouldn't be punished for having good sleep habits. Sleep is very important as well to willpower, as well as a number of other things. The buttons as well, since I've got it oriented like this, button B is over here and button A is over here, so I'm normally going to be interacting with this button. And basically what I'm planning to do is make some kind of little enclosure for this thingy that may or may not use the button or battery wire as a little loop to attach to. The cool thing about this editor, which is at makecode.adafruit.com/Octothorpe editor. Octothorpe is the other name for the hashtag symbol or the pound symbol. If you want to be pretentious, which I totally do. You can edit it that way as well. So there were some things that I didn't know how to do in the block editor, but I definitely know how to do in regular code. And so even though I can't write JavaScript just off the top of my head, I could get started with the blocks and then I could do the more complex stuff in the code because I know how to handle that syntax, and then it would sort of edit the block stuff to match that. And that's really cool because it lets you get code done much faster. I didn't have to Google anything for this, which if I'm switching between JavaScript and Python and whatnot, and God forbid Java, in a single day, that, and Arduino code as well, that gets a bit confusing, like what is the syntax in this particular language. So with this Blockly JavaScript flipping back and forth, that becomes much easier, which is really cool. So yeah. One last thing about iteration, as a hardware company or startup or someone who wants to be doing that, iteration is totally key, and it's also one of the most fun parts of the process, honestly. I once sort of technically co-founded a startup that was all about prototyping and developing systems for producing things and learning how to make them better. And it was one of the most fun things that I did. But, this is kind of better because I get to work with different stuff all the time. So, anyway, it's one of the most fun parts of the process, so don't deprive yourself. You've got to stay with it until you become do user studies, do dog food it yourself, wear it for a month and test it out and stuff. Super cool. And some people think also that this is partly why the Quirky company didn't do so great, is because they, if you remember, they were launching new products all the time based on what was most popular and what was coolest and stuff. But few of those products ever got like a version 2. And so they frequently stayed on this sort of like technological infancy, you could call it. And as a result, they had kind of a not the greatest reputation for being reliable and stuff. Let me show you on the left side also a bit more of this interface because it's cool. You've got these, this is where you grab all the things that you throw into the Blockly editor. There's some advanced ones. That's where I pulled out the arrays. Those are down here. Super cool. There's other stuff too. You can control the individual pins. It's very nice. Totally love this editor. So yeah, that's the talk about iteration for Throwback and Throwback and Throwback and Throwback and Throwbacks Thursday. And if you want to follow along, I haven't gotten this totally written up yet because I wanted to make a video before it gets too late. But you can see the materials list and the code if you go to bit.ly/habitbreaker. And, I'm going to have the rest of this stuff up soon. I'm going to put my hat back on because I dyed my hair and it's annoying me that it's so flat. Anyway. Yeah, so check it out, build your own, and anything else that you want to build that's in the same vein, I'd love to see, because anything that sort of, better living through technology, I think, is one of the coolest things that we can do as makers. Obviously, there's not a technical solution to every problem, like, just because we have this awesome hammer doesn't mean that we need to hit, like, every problem is a nail, but, I think there's so much to be said for using your expertise to make your life better. And I want to share more of that. So thanks for watching. Have a great Throwback Thursday. And we will catch you soon. Ciao.